Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Round Table. The Eagles are 14-3. They're the 2 seed. We knew all this a week ago. But we are here to break down very briefly the Eagles' victory over the Giants. I should say the Eagles' backups victory over the Giants. And we're going to spin it forward into the wild card matchup against the Green Bay Packers. I am your host, Shane Haff. Give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. Joined by the whole crew. First up, it is David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. I'm ready to talk about playoff football. That's what we've been waiting for this whole season is the postseason. We are finally here. We finally get to talk wild card weekend. I am excited for that.
All right. Also joined by Ryan Reese in his new studio. Ryan's big time in us now. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how you doing?
Listen, I'm taking offers. Shoot me a message. Highest bidder wins. No, I'm right there with David. I'm finally ready to talk some playoff football, some games that actually matter. That Giants game was a complete joke. Now it's time to absolutely discuss the whooping we're going to be putting up on the Packers.
All right. Also joined by Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dives, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. Just like the Philadelphia Eagles heading into the playoffs, squads are here. We're healthy. We're ready to go. Let's get this wild card thing started.
Yeah, well, my wife is sick, so hopefully I don't show up on the injury report near the end of the week. Hopefully I'm with everyone for the post-game show, but let's dive in, and we'll do this briefly because it was backups and it didn't matter, but instead of doing an offensive and defensive takeaway, it would just give me a takeaway from the game. Dives, I'll throw it to you first.
Let's go Tanner McKee. I thought he was very solid. Rob killed me last night on Party on Broad for me overhyping his performance. No, it's not Rob. It was Ryan. I take it back. I thought Tanner McKee looked calm. I thought he looked poised. I thought his ball placement at times was excellent. The accuracy was there. He made a couple of bad throws, but he faced a lot of blitzes, I feel like, and he answered for the most part. It was nice to watch a tall quarterback stand in the pocket, get the ball out fast with timing, make smart decisions. He let his receivers make plays on the ball. Overall, I thought it was a very solid performance from Tanner McKee. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not Kenny Pickett that's getting moved this offseason. It's Tanner McKee with some teams now looking at him maybe to move franchises. But overall, Tanner McKee was really solid. I really liked the playbook, the rollouts, getting the ball out fast, getting it to Jahan Dotson. And I thought, in general, it was a very good Tanner McKee game.
All right. Props for Tanner McKee. It was fun to watch him play. He's a guy that I've liked really ever since I saw him in his first preseason game almost 2 years ago at this point. So it was fun watching him play for like 3 quarters. By the fourth quarter, I was just ready for it to be over. But Ryan, what about you? What's your takeaway from the Giants game?
First, I'd like to address this comment. I'm not a hater. I'm a realist. And Philadelphia Eagle fans have, a problem in falling in love with certain players that they overhype in their head when they're playing against lesser opponents and we think they're amazing. And what always happens? They turn out to be just a guy. That's all I'm saying. I like Tanner. He did a great job. Well, let's not, go calling him Joe Montana anytime soon here. But my key, takeaway here, and somebody actually did mention it in the chat, and that's Kenny Gainwell's awful. And not only because I've been saying it all year, but because he showed it in the one chance he really had to prove that he was worth and worthy of being a number one guy. What did he do? He ran the ball 11 times for 14 measly yards, and he looked awful. Clearly, he is always and forever will be a backup running back. And he cemented that in my eyes. And honestly, I don't think we'll be seeing him back next year. And that's my opinion. But there you go.
It's so ironic that Ryan like talks down on Tanner McKee as a late round pick that we're all overhyping. Yet there's guys littered throughout Eagles history, recent Eagles history. Jason Kelsey, TJ Edwards, Jordan, Reed Blankenship. You go on and on about guys that are like.
Sure, they've proven it against actual competition time in and time again. That's all I'm saying. You're literally going off of preseason and against the Giants, who could not give two shits about this game. Talk to me when he plays somebody real. That's all I'm saying. I hope he does great. I'm not rooting against him. I'm just saying let's lower the expectations, folks.
I'm trying to think of a player that like actually played really bad, but it was then very good. Like, can you think of a guy like give credit where credit's due, man?
I'm not saying he had a horrible game. I'm just saying there's no need to, build the statue is all I'm saying. We did that with Travis Fulgham. What happened to him?
I think it's more.
I will never forget that month of Travis Fulgham.
Right,
That's the most insane thing I've ever seen.
And at least Travis Fulgham did it for a month.
By the way, I am working on. We're going to do an award show down the road for the 2024 season, and there is a Travis Fulgham award. So make a mental note of that.
Who is the wide receiver the 1 year? It was in preseason. He didn't actually make the team, but
there's so many.
I know, right? But again, we do it all the time, and that's okay. I'm just trying to do is be real and recognize that if Tanner McKee was an absolute dude, he'd be a dude and not a third stringer.
So just call yourself a Cowboys fan and let's just move on.
All right, listen. You know what? It was funny, to throw those little jokes, but now we're talking serious stuff here. Don't be talking out your mouth like that. All right.
I feel like Ryan's about to step through this screen and just slap me like Will Smith.
I mean, it's possible.
I can't believe that Travis Fulgham since we're just talking about Travis Fulgham now, in his entire NFL career had 539 receiving yards, and 435 of them came in a 5-game stretch in 2020 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's one of the more insane runs I've ever seen in sports ever.
For sure.
So, okay. Now that Dibes and Ryan are done arguing with each other, David, what's your top takeaway from the game?
Yeah, beat that.
So Ryan's was Kenny doesn't gain well enough. Was that the take? I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, he
Shane every week says we should record like 5 minutes before we go on because we're talking like this. I thought that just happened. Like I didn't even realize we were live. So I guess I'll go something positive with the linebacking core. I thought Oren Burks was great in this one. He wore the green dot, communicated all the defensive plays. He looked good in both of his starts down in the stretch there. He flies around to the ball. He diagnoses what opposing offenses are doing well. I'd say the linebacking coaching has just been really good this year. It's paid huge dividends. Jeremiah Trotter, he ended the game with 11 tackles himself. He had another play where he shot the gap perfectly, but unfortunately he didn't finish and complete the tackle there. But he has elite processing, in my opinion, and I think they've done really good to completely flip the script there on the linebackers this year with Bond and Dean, both of them being Pro Bowl caliber. Bond should be an All-Pro, but Trotter and Burks, and I think they've really built some stability at the position, which is hard to say considering you have to go back to like 2005 or 6 since the last time they even had a Pro Bowler. So I'd say that deserves a big shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun watching competent linebacker play, and I can't believe we got to see backup competent linebacker play. Who would have ever thought? But
the Eagles held tight ends to the lowest amount of yards in the NFL this year. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. Used to be our absolute
Achilles heel.
Yeah. For my takeaway, I'm going to go with I think we can definitively say that you're just never going to see Jalen Hurts in like a play action bootleggy sort of an offense. Because there's been questions like, did the Eagles just not want to do it? Maybe the coordinators they've had don't want to do it. Maybe it's Jalen. Well, you had this game where Jalen was removed from the equation and they called the most play action bootleg heavy game plan that I've seen anyone not named McVay call. And it was really weird that it was Tanner McKee that's who was doing it, because he's not a mobile guy. But I think the first 5 passes were all play action and 4 of them were bootlegs. You saw it all night long. I think at that point you can pretty definitively say that Jalen Hurts just doesn't want to run that type of an offense, which is fine. It's just I'll stop calling for it because I've thought it's something he would be good in for a long time. I think it's pretty clear at this point that he doesn't want to do that. And so, like, if we're talking takeaways for, the actual like guys you're going to see playing, that's one thing I was able to pull out from that game. The other is just that Jahan Dotson, I think, could be productive if he didn't play for the Eagles. There's just so many guys that are above him in the pecking order, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, throwing the ball to Barkley, throwing it to Goddard, throwing it to Calcaterra, Jalen Hurts scrambling. And, oh, by the way, like, we also run 12 personnel at one of the highest rates in the league, and we run the ball at one of the highest rates in the league because Dotson looked good in this game. He still struggled, like, getting off of press coverage at times. But, I think we're going to look back. Like, people hate the Jahan Dotson trade for what they gave up and what he produced this year. But I still think Dotson is a decent player. I just don't think a wide receiver 3 is ever going to really put up a lot of stats in Philly, barring like major injury or philosophy change. And I don't think that philosophy change is coming or should be coming. So it's kind of my takeaway on the game. Brett Eclipse chiming in here says that hopes my pick is the Packers so I can reverse jinx it like I did at the start of the year. Yeah, I was on a heater. I think I was wrong on all 4 games before the bye week with my picks, but I got better after the break. So
the wide receiver position is such a double-edged sword because we all know when A.J. Brown is not on that football field, how much of an impact it makes. So I'm totally cool with the Eagles, giving the ball to the best players in Devontae and AJ, but at the end of the day, like, I'm still team, like, you got to get someone to groom there, period.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's flush this Giants game and let's get into some before we do that, let's start. Does anybody have any like overarching season takeaway that you just want to throw out there before we get into our matchups to watch for the Packers game? David, I'll throw it to you first. Overarching season takeaway, just reflecting on the regular season as a whole.
For people to maybe not overreact so much at the beginning of the season, I think that we had everybody's favorite coach, Nick Sirianni. They wanted him out of the door after 4 weeks. He was the CEO coach. Nobody liked him. But now he's got 4 seasons in a row where he's led this team to the playoffs. He tied a franchise record with 14 victories. The Eagles have been in the playoffs every single year he's been there. So he's done some remarkable things, and he did it this season with some adversity. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert only played together in the same game 3 times the whole year. That's incredible. I mean, he overcame a lot. And he won games with backups. And even the last week against the Giants, at the end of the game, he could have tried to go for a touchdown. And then you just win or lose at the end against the Giants. But he didn't even do that. He kicked the field goal to ensure he had a 7-point lead so that the Giants couldn't come back with the minute left. I mean, he is all about winning. And I think a lot of people were too quick to jump the gun on him earlier in the season. And I think he's done a really good job. He's brought in a lot of good people this time. And I think going into the future, people should just watch the process, because a lot of what goes on behind the scenes is their daily process. It's their routines. It's the relationships and the culture that he's cultivated in that locker room.
Yeah. All right. Some Nick Sirianni praise from David there. And it's hard to argue with what they've been able to do this season and really over the course of the career. I think the way the season ended last year. Fortunately, it didn't affect the team as much as I think it affected the fan base as we went along. But Dives, I'll throw it to you next. What's your overarching season takeaway?
I love Q's Heroes references. I just keep them coming, man. Keep them coming. Peter Petrelli for life. I'll go. I mean, you could easily just start with the health, the fact that they're entering the playoffs as a healthy team in general. If the Sixers had half of the Eagles' medical staff, maybe we're talking a completely different organization. But anywho, it's got to start and end with the Eagles' defense. Week 1, this Eagles' defense compared to the Eagles' defense heading into the playoffs. A big part of that is Cooper DeJean. A big part of that is Vic Fangio adjusting and putting his players in the best position to succeed. Jalen Carter becoming an All-Pro. Zach Bond becoming an All-Pro. I remember going back to that Packers game, and Zach Bond just played his ass off. And we're like, who is this guy? It was almost like just a flash in the pan at the time. There's no way that could maintain consistently through 18 weeks. And my God, has it. Zach Bond, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Q, you could go across the board. And for me, that is the biggest difference. I think the Packers are not ready for this improved Eagles defense that has just played its ass off rather consistently since week 1.
Yeah, I went back to watch some of the week 1 film since these two teams matched up, and I watched a quarter, and it was this is a complete waste of time because the Eagles were running so much spot drop cover 3 zone, and they have basically not done that at all since the bye. And so it was pretty worthless. There's not a lot you can take away from that first game. I don't think both teams are radically different, but we'll get into that in a minute. Ryan, do you have an overarching season takeaway that you want to throw out there?
Uh-oh.
We can't hear you, but you're not muted. Your mic's just not working.
I'm personally muted my mic. My takeaway is that what a difference 2 coordinators make. We obviously struggled mightily last year. There was a lot of questions, and we went out and we got, as we call them, the adults in the room, and that helped Sirianni, and I think Sirianni helped them. And, obviously we saw this change in this team after that bye, and especially in the defense. I mean, the defense since 1991, this is the first time they've ever been number 1 defense in yards allowed. And it absolutely is a credit to having adults in the room. And Fangio is, can honestly do no wrong. He's completely transformed this defense, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I just think back to the draft, and if you just look at, obviously you had the disaster in 2020 taking Jalen Reagor in the first round. Of course, you got Jalen Hurts in the second round, so but that was a disastrous draft in terms of process at the top. Since then, the Eagles have been on a 4-year hot streak. 2021, their top 3 picks, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams. Those guys have been so good. Milton Williams is going to go play somewhere else next year because they're not going to be able to pay him. The 2022, Jordan Davis hasn't had the impact that some people wanted, but he's still a big part of the defense. Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean. Awesome draft stuff. 2023, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, who has come alive this year, and then Tyler Steen, who we just don't know much about yet because it's a 3rd-round pick. He hasn't played. And this year, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalex Hunt. We can definitively say that 9 out of 12 of those picks are absolute hits, and the jury's not out on any of the ones that we can't say that about yet. And so the Eagles have got the right coaches in the building, but they've also done a great job getting the personnel in the building. And that's why I think they should be considered one of the heavy favorites to go make a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, there's a reason I brought up Cooper DeJean first, because I think he's the guy that allows Vic Fangio to do so much. Just like we saw the difference in play on the field between CJ Gardner-Johnson and Tristan McCollum, just night and day with Avonte Madison, Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean lets Vic Fangio do whatever he wants, zone defense, you name it. And he just, I was so happy when I was reading a PFF All-Pro, and Cooper DeJean was on that list.
Yeah, I remember tweeting out way back at like the combine that, or no, it wasn't the combine. I don't remember how early it was. It was definitely pre-draft that I tweeted out that Vic Fangio was going to have a blast with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Cooper DeJean in the same secondary. And then they ended up being able to land both guys, and it's been a lot of fun. But all right, guys, let's look ahead to the Green Bay Packers coming to Philadelphia. We finally get to play them at home during a home game, wild card weekend. And let's go top matchups to watch. David, I'll throw it to you first.
I went with Jalen Hurts versus the Packers defense. I think that's going to be the storyline. Is he rusty? Does the 3-week absence hurt him? I don't think it's going to, but he does face a pretty good Packers defense. I think they've allowed the 8th fewest points. I think it was like 27 point something. They had the 5th fewest yards per game allowed, 5th fewest yards per play. They're going to be a tough opponent there defensively. And Hurts finished the first game 20 of 34. I think he had like 2 touchdowns, 278 yards. And that was with Jair. Is that how you say it? Jair Alexander back there.
Yeah.
He's not going to be there. AJ Brown took that matchup over anyway. He scored on a long 67-yard touchdown after the two of them got in a heated exchange. And then from there on, he just kept on dominating. He had 119 yards on the game. Devontae Smith had 84 yards. He was 7 of 8 in that game. And and he was clutch, and he came up in big moments. And I think that you're going to need to see that in this game, that Hurts is going to have some outlets. I think the two main guys are going to dominate in targets like they do every week, AJ and Devontae. But Goddard's going to have to do something. He did very little in that game. I don't remember what he had, but it was like 30 yards, I think, total. But they're going to need him more in this game defensively until they break it open. But I have very few concerns with Jalen Hurts going into the game. I know it's been a big topic, but it's a non-issue. He hasn't practiced. He hasn't got through protocol because he was never going to play last week. He was never going to practice. And their first practice for this is tomorrow. And he'll be out there, and he's completely fine.
All right. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts against the Packers defense. Great matchup. Obviously, a very key matchup to watch, especially when you get into the run game, which I'll take second. You kind of took a little bit of the passing aspect. The Eagles' run game versus the Packers' run defense is going to be key as well. The Packers are just a really good run defense. If you go look at the win rate metrics from ESPN, they have the top-ranked edge rusher and run-stop win rate in Rashawn Gary, and the top-ranked defensive tackle and run-stop win rate in TJ Slayton. So this is a very good run defense. They play in a division with the Lions, who are one of the best running teams in football, and they held the Lions to under 4 yards per carry both times they played them. I think it was 3.3 yards the first time, and it was 3.9 yards the second time. They have not allowed a 75-yard rusher since their bye week in week 10. So weeks 11 through 18, they did not allow a 75-yard rusher. They only allowed 3 100-yard rushers this season, and 2 of them were the first 2 weeks of the year. Jonathan Taylor and obviously Saquon Barkley in week 1, who went 24 for 109 and 2 touchdowns against them. And so we can't just say that, well, they haven't played a team that can run the ball like the Eagles, because they've played the Lions twice, and the Lions are up there as one of the best running teams in the NFL. Now, they don't have the threat of the quarterback in the run game in the way that the Eagles do, and that does open some things up for them that Detroit simply doesn't have. But I'm really curious to see how Kellen Moore is going to design this game plan. What are you going to try to attack? Like, you would think you want to try to lean on your run game a little bit and ease Jalen Hurts back into it, but you're playing a really good run defense. And so being able to win up front, win in the trenches, push the line of scrimmage, and get the run game going early, I think is a big key in this one. So that's pretty much the entire Eagles offense. But Dibes, you wanted to talk specifically on Eagles wide receivers. So why don't you pick it up from there, and we'll just let Ryan cover the whole run defense or something.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what Edgerrin Cooper does against Saquon Barkley. Quay Walker has been largely disappointing, and we are all, I think, in unison. We were huge fans of Edgerrin Cooper, who is by far their best linebacker on the field. So that'll be a really fun subplot to watch. But yeah, it's without a doubt the biggest mismatch in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles is Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown versus Keyshawn Nixon now that Jair Alexander is on injured reserve. Jalen Hurts stats with a clean pocket, 116 QB rating, 9.4 yards per attempt, 12-3 touchdown to interception ratio. The Green Bay Packers pass rush are 26 in win rate, 26%. That's a big problem when you're going to give the two best, arguably top 10 receivers in the NFL with that much time to create separation for a defense that doesn't have corners to stick in coverage with guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I expect A.J. and Devontae to eat in those one-on-one matchups, especially on those matchups when they don't have Xavier McKinney in the vicinity. You look at the Green Bay Packers defense, I expect them to try and take out Saquon Barkley, and that's going to leave a lot of opportunity for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So for me, Keyshawn Nixon is definitely the guy to watch. He's somewhat their weak link in the secondary that could get exposed. He's allowed 56 receptions on 82 targets for 500 yards. He's allowed 5 touchdowns this season. He's got 10 missed tackles, a QB rating allowed of nearly 100, and he's also got 10 penalties called on him, just 1 interception. So expect A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith to just eat on those matchups. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith versus Keyshawn Nixon.
All right. So that's a pretty thorough offensive preview. Ryan, you picked something on the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles. So we'll kick it over to you here. Why don't you talk Eagles defense?
Yeah. The matchup that I'm going to be focusing on is the Green Bay rush attack versus our rush defense. The Green Bay Packers, obviously, Josh Jacobs, over 1,300 yards. He 15 touchdowns, almost 4.5 yards per carry. He's looked absolutely fantastic. The thing is, the Eagles are still a top, 10 rush defense. In yards, total yards, in total touchdowns, they rank second. They have yet to give up a 40-yard or greater rush. They also have yet to give up a 40. Oh, am I?
That was weird.
That was weird. Why did I just echo there? But anyway, they also have the most fumbles, 15. By any defense on the rush side of things. So this is going to be a great matchup. And just like the other side of the ball with Saquon versus their rush defense, I kind of equate it to kind of the same thing. Both have really good stats on the defensive side of the ball. Both have a really good running back to go against them. So it's really going to come down to what offense is able to break through that defense. And I think personally, I'm going to bank on Saquon against the Green Bay defense rather than Josh Jacobs and the Eagles defense. So that's the matchup I'm watching.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are our top matchups to watch. I had a question come in here. How would Green Bay scheme to stop the pass game? My guess is zone for days. Yeah, Green Bay is a very zone-heavy team. They're like the 5th. They run zone coverage at like the 5th highest rate in the NFL, I think. So they're going to be playing a lot of zone coverage against the Eagles for sure.
This should be a really good Jalen Carter game as well, as it always is. As long as he's not held every play, and he will be. Center Josh Myers and right guard Sean Ryan. They have collectively allowed 53 pressures, 12 quarterback hits, and 5 sacks this season. I've said it from the beginning. I've said it from the end. The Eagles' number one defense starts and ends with that interior pressure from Jalen Carter, and this is a really good matchup for him as well.
Well, the good news for the Packers is that the officiating crew that has the Eagles-Packers game calls holding penalties 66% less than league average on passing plays. So Jalen Carter's not getting that first holding penalty in this one.
And I said this last night, but shout out to whoever's doing the field because we have to bring it up. Week 1 in Brazil, the field was a goddamn travesty, and we're playing at home. So we shouldn't have any field issues for the defensive line to get home against Jordan Love.
Yeah. Although it is worth mentioning, Jordan Love is tremendously difficult to sack. He's 97th percentile in pressure to sack rate, and he's 95th percentile in sack rate. So he's a hard guy to get to the ground. Doesn't put up a lot of like scrambling yards, but he's really good at escaping pressure. Okay. Shall we get into our score predictions and picks?
Can we do this first?
Oh, yeah. Comment coming in from Twitter here. What was the biggest change the organization made to be successful this season? David, I'll throw it to you first.
I would probably go with the philosophical change they made to start rookies. It's something they haven't done year after year, and they finally started drafting some top-tier guys like Jalen Carter a year ago, and they started implementing them into the offense right away. And I think you saw Quinyon, he was successful right out the gate. And then you go with Cooper DeJean as soon as he came out starting the bye week, like Dibe said earlier, it completely transformed what they were able to do in that defensive backfield. So for me, it would be just changing their philosophy and starting to play the rookies.
All right. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think ultimately Quinyon made their decision to throw Cooper in a little bit easier. Obviously they saw a little success, and typically when change, a lot of the times, if it doesn't work right away, you immediately pull it back and go back to what was working. So thank God Quinyon was doing his thing. But I'm going to say the philosophical change was, to not outsmart themselves and to try and get the next guy for coordinator. They went out and got the guys. They went out and got guys who have done it and have been doing it at various, varying degrees of success. So I think normally they're always trying to get that next guy, and I think they smartly they went out and got guys that could do the job right then and there.
Yeah. All right. Dibes, you're up next. What's your answer? Biggest change that made the Eagles successful this season?
I mean, it's Vic Fangio. Getting a home run addition there. I mean, that's from at least just the surface level. From the inside, I give shout outs to the cornerback coach, Roy Anderson. Give credit to Bobby King, the inside linebacker coach. Give credit to all these kind of guys that unsung heroes that have really, truly developed guys on all 3 levels of this defense. And we don't talk about that enough. For me, that's like David said, like it's guys stepping up like Q and not missing a beat. That was a big question mark heading into 2024, going from Toledo to the NFL. Especially with a guy that played a lot of slot during the preseason, has not missed a beat, from the outside from day one. Cooper DeJean, after the bye week, he struggled out the gate because of the injury. Didn't really play much or at all during the preseason, very little during the preseason. Came out there after the bye and was dominant straight up. So it's top to bottom. I hate to go politics as I always do, but it's just the entire coaching staff, including Nick Sirianni, Ryan, that has really turned this team around from the bye week. No, I'm talking about myself because you were killing me on my Nick Sirianni take.
Wow, that's also true. You were a hater.
I will go
Always true.
with getting competency in the offensive coordinator chair. Now, whether that means that Brian Johnson was incompetent, whether that means Nick Sirianni was meddling too much last year and not this year, I don't know. But I know that there's competency in the offensive coordinators in the play calling. I mean, I got so frustrated last year just watching the Eagles continually have zero answers to the blitz. I just remember watching the Bucs in the playoffs that the Eagles just kept going empty and the Bucs kept zero blitzing to have a free runner and the Eagles had nothing, no answers whatsoever. And so, the biggest thing to me is just there's answers now. And it's just a baseline of competency that the Eagles did not have in the building last year. Wherever the responsibilities of that break down, I don't know, but it's the biggest difference for me in the offense.
My mental health in 2024 has been so much better compared to years. Like, it's night and day different. Night and day. Like, this is the most generally positive Eagles season in quite some time. Like, even go back to last year or the year before, like when they got into the playoffs, but there were major question marks. Major. And this year, like, totally different vibe. Youngest defense in the NFL. Like you said, Shane, they're crushing in the draft. They have draft picks again this year. There's going to be a lot of change this offseason. We'll get to that. But at the end of the day, man, like when you're building through the draft like they have been compared to years past when it was basically assassins for hire, mercenaries for hire, 1-year contracts for old guys, and they won a Super Bowl with it. Kudos to Howie. But I feel like he learned his lesson a couple years after that and completely flipped the script. And we're looking at, if you add like an edge rusher in the 2025 draft, a tight end, man, there's some really fun things to go to war with, like a team like the Washington Commanders for a long time.
Yeah. All right. Let's spin it forward now into our picks. We will do our score prediction, player of the game picks, and then all of our over-unders as well. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. Give me your score prediction for this one.
I'm going to say 31-13. I'm thinking domination here. I don't think the Packers, the Packers were able to kind of keep it close with us in the beginning of the year, but we're both obviously much different teams. I think we have ascended far greater than they have since that time. So,
all right, 31-13 from Ryan. David, what do you have?
I am, as always, on board with Ryan's thought process here. I had 30-10. I think it's going to be a blowout as well.
All right. Dibes. You're muted.
Give me a slightly less scoring for the Birds, 28-14. All the same. It's a 2-touchdown win for the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. I will take the Eagles. I've got 28-24 Eagles. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think that this is the worst first-round matchup the Eagles could have drawn. I think the Packers are a really good football team. They haven't been able to get it done against the Lions and the Vikings. But of all the teams they could have matched up with in the first round, I would rather play the Bucs. I would rather play the Commanders. I would rather play the Rams. And
disagree.
It's a little bit of a bad break, in my opinion, that Green Bay ends up being the 7 seed, and that's who you face. Green Bay is a top 5 team by DVOA. If you want to go look at their offense, it's 4th. Their defense is 7th. They're 3rd overall. They're a good football team. Now, maybe Jordan Love's a little banged up. It sounded like it's really not a big deal, and he could have come back into that game. Obviously, losing Christian Watson is a big deal for them, but I think they have the best play designer in the NFC that's not Ben Johnson. I think they've got a really talented roster. So I think this is going to be a good game, but I'll take the Eagles. I think they get it done. I think it'll end up being a little closer than people think. I love how Q gives a score, but he never tells us who he thinks is going to win.
Never.
He's got 24-20 though. So, all right, let's go to player of the game. Dibes, who do you have?
Yeah, give me Jalen Hurts. I think they the Packers try to take out Saquon Barkley in this one, and I'm not worried about the concussion or him missing time. I feel like this is a big A.J. Brown game, and I feel like the Eagles will not spread the ball, that's a bad word, but they'll get the ball out a little bit faster, and I think Hurts is going to have a very solid game. All
right. David, who's your player of the game?
I'm going with Tanner McKee after Hurts goes out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going with AJ Brown. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop him in this game. I think he's going to have a really big game, over 100 yards, couple touchdowns.
All right, Ryan, who do you have?
Well, listen. Since everybody stole, two good ones already, I am going to go with the man who got us here. And that is a Saquon Barkley. I don't care about Rashawn Gary. Come tell him to see me.
All right. I'm gonna do something dumb.
Uh-oh. Here comes the defensive player.
Quinyon Mitchell gets his first career interception to seal the game in the fourth quarter. Jordan Love is a gunslinger. He'll put the ball in harm's way at from time to time. 2.7% turnover worthy play rate, ranks in the bottom half of the league. So there you go. Quinyon Mitchell, first career interception, and it delivers the Eagles the victory and a well-deserved player of the game. So there you go. Let's go over under Josh Jacobs rushing yards. Dibe set this at 49.5. I will take the over on that one. I think Josh Jacobs will get over 50 yards. David, what about you?
Under.
All right, Ryan.
I unfortunately think he gets slightly over. So give me that over. He'll get like 58 yards.
All right, Dibes.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. They will have more rushing yards with a couple quarterback scrambles, but going under.
All right. Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts, who has more passing yards, Dibes?
Passing yards, give me Hurts.
All right. David?
Hurts by a lot.
Brian?
Love by a lot, because it's going to be garbage time for half the game. He's going to be throwing it.
All right. This one's tough. I'm going to take Hurts.
Things that make you go,
I'm going to take Hurts. Over under Devontae Smith receptions, 5.5. Ryan.
I'm going to go under. I think he gets 5.
All right. Dibes?
I'm going to go over. I don't think he's going to have a lot of yards, but I think he's going to be a good safety valve. He'll get around 6-7 receptions for like 70 yards.
All right. David?
I'm going over. I think he gets 8 for about 90 yards.
I will also go over.
Damn.
He's been over that number each of the last 3 games, by the way. Well, as long as we throw out the Giants game he didn't actually play in. But the last 3 games he's played in, 11, 6, and 6. Okay, let's go to A.J. Brown versus the Eagles field. Who has more touchdowns? Now, Dibes, you set these questions. Is this receiving touchdowns or touchdowns?
Receiving.
Okay. Because if it's touchdowns, I definitely take the field. But
yeah,
if it is receiving touchdowns, give me AJ Brown. David, what about you?
AJ Brown. I'd take him against the whole field as long as we're not counting Jalen Hurts touchdowns that he throws to AJ Brown. I think he'll have more than everybody else on the Eagles combined.
All right. Dibes.
AJ.
Ryan?
I mean, I obviously have to be different, so I'm gonna say push.
You can't push.
I just did.
No, it's not allowed. We're going to mark it wrong no matter what if you say push.
That's messed up. But I'm gonna say field,
Okay.
but with an asterisk.
Okay. Just made me think of the Everybody Loves Raymond episode where he finds out he can't say asterisk right when he's going on this TV show. I don't know if you guys watch that show, but anyways.
By the way, can I just real quick, Q?
That's
Ever since the Gainwell talk many games ago, Sir Kenny Gainwell has done diddly squat. So keep up that talk, man. He's just going to continue to do nada.
Brett Eclipse says everybody's picking AJ, and the two dudes with touchdowns will be Johnny Wilson and Grant Calcaterra.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Over under rushing yards from Saquon Barkley. The line is 129.5. Ryan, what do you have?
Oh, I'm going over, baby.
All
There's
right.
going to be a lot of garbage rushes.
All right, David.
It's just rushing yards.
Just rushing yards.
Under.
Dibes.
Kenny Gainwell is going to get those garbage yards, right?
Oh,
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
stop
thinking if
it.
it goes to garbage
Stop
time.
Blasphemous.
Yeah, it's under for me.
I think I'll take the under as well. And then over under AJ Brown receiving yards, 99.5. Over. I got the over. David?
Over.
All right. Dibes?
Over.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'll go over too.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are our picks, our official predictions. You got our top matchups to watch, all that stuff. Guys, let's throw it around the horn here for final thoughts and plugs. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. The floor is yours, man.
Yeah. Listen, you can follow me right here at Philly Sports PSA on X. Yeah, we just did a great episode on Party on Broad last night, so check that out on the YouTube. And then, of course, check out, there's a couple of shorts featuring myself as well, myself and Rob. But also make sure that you are locked in to the Eagles Pinpool Network. Make sure you are streaming it, you're subscribed, where you follow your podcast. On Facebook, it doesn't matter. Follow it everywhere. And stay tuned for many more shows featuring me. So what more could you want?
What more could you possibly want than Ryan in your earbuds or on your screen more and more? So, subscribe to the Eagles Pinpool Network and you'll get it all. David, the floor is yours, man. What do you got?
Tomorrow I'm releasing a piece for Philly Sports Network on Quinyon and Slay. I spoke to him after the Dallas Cowboy game a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how important Slay has been and his maturation process and challenges he faced his first season in the NFL. So check that out tomorrow on Philly Sports Network. You can follow me and everything else I write at PHL Eagle News. Give everybody else here a follow. Make sure you're following everything on the Eagles Pinpool Network. It's just a plethora of information you can get from all of this. If you want to follow along, I think Shane's got something coming out every single day through that network. One part of the season, didn't you do a game show? Like, weren't you did a live stream during the game or something like that?
Yeah, during the Steelers game.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to try to do it during the playoffs, but you might see that too. You never know. So he's got something for you every single day of the week. So give that a follow as well. And thank you all for this season. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed all the engagement during the regular season as well.
All right. Great stuff. David, Dives, you're up, man.
All right. Just want to say thank you to all the comments tonight. Awesome, as always. Man, it's going to be a really fun post-game halftime show this Sunday against the Packers. Come for Shane's in-depth analysis on 12 personnel and Vic Fangio's zone defense. Stay for when I flip the F out when Q gets his first interception.
To seal the game.
To seal the game. That'll be a hell of a time. So make sure you lock it down. The Eagles Pinpool, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Go check it out.
There you have it, guys. Make sure you are following all of these guys. David's written work is fantastic. Ryan and Dibes do so much great stuff for the draft and Eagles stuff as well. Dibes is putting out videos all the time. So be sure you're following along with all of them. You can go check out my Patreon. Johnny and I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ontheshanepage. I kid you not. I posted a 30-minute long Tanner McKee all 22 pass game review today. So if you're a true sicko and you just want to find out why Tanner McKee should be QB2, Ryan, I'll send you a link.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go check that out. You can get a free trial membership and you can check out the video. Heck, you can cancel after you watch the video if you want to, but come hang out with us. We have a lot of fun chatting with guys in Discord and all the content we put out. And please give us 5-star ratings and reviews. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts for the Eagles Pin Pull Network to help us get that show out there for other people. Ryan, you keep waving fingers around.
Just real quick. Yeah, I forgot to mention that if any of you are going down to the game, please stop on by the tailgate, M3 lot. Shoot me a message or just find me there. Free beer on me, and let's talk some birds.
All right, there you have it, guys. Follow us all on Twitter. David is at PHL Eagle News. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next Tuesday night. Go Birds.